Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hard Cannon Podcast. I'm your host, Epic Ray of Epic Ray Comedy. We are back once again for another hard hitting episode. We're going to be discussing the universal matters of universal decisions and the universal choices on this, our episode of the Hard Cannon Podcast. I'm joined by my friend Jojo. Jojo, how you doing, man?
Doing good, bro. How are you, man?
I'm not too bad. I'm doing good. A little bit under the weather, but I'm doing good. I'm doing well.
Oh man.
You and I've known each other for quite a bit, haven't we? Like I think it's probably going like maybe what 4 years probably.
Oh, dude. Maybe a little bit longer than that, actually. We met in, I think it was 2018 we met, so
2018, 2018.
yeah.
It's it's been a long time. It's been a long time. We I think what we me and him joined work together, and we were both working at Green Gods at the time. It was a difficult, weird time for honestly for a lot of us. And
Hmm.
I think what was it? We ended up transitioning straight into the COVID after that, and just things went
Yep.
full circle at that point. Where you
Hmm.
where you at now, Jojo?
I'm hanging out over at the Daily Bugle, so it's capacity driven, but a little bit more laid back.
Honestly, a lot of those places are very much capacity driven. It is something special to see people coming in out of the rides, just enjoying everything and everyone.
Hmm.
And so, what games you playing now? I know you're a big Kingdom Hearts player, but what games you playing now right now?
Well, I got the Switch 2 recently, so the first game I decided to get was Kirby and Forgotten Lands, so working on that here and there, but just so I could, you know, somewhat focus. I mean, I'll just put on my comfort game Kingdom Hearts. I'm actually playing it in the background to help me, I guess just relax a bit more.
I feel you. I feel you on that. So before we jump into our subject matter, I remember I wanted to go over and talk with you about this because you had said quite a few things about it already, and
Hmm.
I think it's been quite enough long enough time that we can actually talk about Stranger Things. I think.
Hmm.
So what was your initial thoughts during the first half of the season?
So the first half of the season was a good setup of what's to come of the finale. And in all honesty, I think the first half was definitely well written. As for the later half, in like the full transparency opinion for me, it was only literally the finale that was towards the end of that was not as what I hoped, but it was still a good send off nonetheless to the story. So I would say for the first half, it was really well done.
I think honestly, when I sat down on I believe it came out Thanksgiving, right? The first half Thanksgiving around that time.
Yeah, around November, yeah.
And like when I saw it, I was watching it with a buddy of mine in his apartment, and we were pausing it occasionally, as you do when you
Hmm.
watch certain shows, and like
Right.
we were trying to just like figure things out. And I think what was it? I think the plot of the show. I think I got about 80% of the plot
Hmm.
by the end of the third episode, and like everything was like, okay. I know exactly what's going on. I know exactly what's going to do. But then once they got to the point where they were actually in like they were in the upside down, they said like there's another world on top of the upside down. I'm like, okay, this okay, I was completely like wrong. So like there were some parts that I was correct about, but it took a wild turn pretty much
Hmm.
during the second half and everything.
Right.
The finale was pretty good. It's not as best I would like to see because I know some people would have liked to have seen like a major character like get taken out. But when the
Hmm.
characters are as beloved as they are, I know the writers have a really tough time. It was like, okay, if we were to take someone out, like who we take out, like who's going to mean the least amount to the plot if we take them out. And the thing is, all of them were valued in their own way to the plot, except for like the minor side characters. Every one of the characters was beloved in their own way. So to take one of them
Hmm.
out, would be extremely painful for not only for the writers but for the actors as well, because this is going to be something that they're going to have to throw their emotion into, and especially the person that's going to probably get in that send off.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it
no, I no, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you I finished my thought. Go ahead.
No, it's just no. I agree. It's like they definitely probably would have their put in their all for that. So the question of the day was who was gonna go, and well, this is the only. I mean, it's not a major spoiler since it's something that it would have gotten, talked about so much on social media. Like the Stranger Things fans is unfortunately one of those shows where someone will spoil the major thing when something happens. And so I can at least say that everyone's favorite characters make it to the very end as to what they exactly do in that process for that survival. That I definitely won't spoil. That's something for everyone else to experience that hasn't caught up yet.
That was the one thing that did get spoiled for me when the first half ended and then the
Hmm.
second half got uploaded to Netflix. I was going to actually sit down because it got released on Christmas. I was going to sit down, have dinner, and enjoy it. Just be able to sit down and enjoy it. And I didn't actually get the opportunity to do that because I'm guessing somebody we have a bunch of trolls out there, ladies and gentlemen. So remember that when we're watching new shows, whatever show
Hmm.
is gonna be coming out, remember like social media is your enemy when these shows are coming out. And
Oh yeah.
someone had spoiled, I forget what episode it was, but spoiled something that happened with Will and Vecna, and I was like, I don't even know if I want to like, I don't know if I can watch the episode clearing that because I know
Hmm.
what's going to happen, but I but
Right.
I, I still watched it because I wanted to see the build up to that moment. So
Right. No, that was that was definitely someone that I know. Like she was in the middle of because she waited until everything was done for the season, but unfortunately got spoiled on the finale. So, before she was done with it, but so she just took a little break for a few days to try to forget what she saw, and she ended up, just pretty much having the same opinion that we are having so far with the finale. She liked it, but it's just like it could have been better.
did you hear the rumor that they possibly had about there being another episode? I think they said in episode 9. Like I think a week or two after the final episode got released, that they were talking about there was possibly going to an episode 9 coming out, and I was like, I don't know what else left they can do. Like unless they have this 3 hour episode that we don't know about and like it's
Hmm.
gonna get released, I don't know how they could have closed it any better.
Right. No, I agree. I heard about it, and even the actor who plays the teacher, Mr. Carr, he I think he was the first person to say that there was a secret episode. Like there's more to the finale than what we saw, and that we should try to. I don't know if he really said like we should try to petition it, but like just to make us aware that exists. And honestly, I didn't really believe it just because of how quickly Netflix is just like, no, no, it's not true, quote unquote. So, but there could be more. I would have put it past the Duffer Brothers to have more up their sleeve for an epilogue story, but I think they just want to focus on the animated series that will eventually come out that they announced. So,
Because I remember and like there was to anyone out there, I'm actually showing my age a little bit. To anybody out there who has seen the movie Little Shop of Horrors, so the original ending for Little Shop of Horrors was actually it was going to be like the entire cast had gotten eaten. So that would mean Seymour, Audrey, like everyone's pretty much getting eaten, and the Audrey twos would take over the world. That was the original ending of the movie, and then they did a testing with audiences, and the audiences didn't like it because they enjoyed the character so much. So what
mhm.
they did was they reshot a whole another ending for them, and it shows that like if the ending does not test well, like they're willing to go back and actually change a couple things. And
Hmm.
from what I saw from a lot of people, some of them did enjoy the ending. Some people were very much against the ending. And then there are some people that like, you know, they're in the middle about it. You know, they liked the way they wrapped up the character. They just didn't like how everything just went through so quickly. So it's a very polarizing episode. I have to say that.
Right. Right. No, it's the only thing I remember from what the actor said was that there was just missing parts. So not really a direct confirmation of a final episode, but yeah, I heard the rumors and just but it really just turned out that people were just like reading way too deep into it all, which was, makes sense. There are some people that just don't want it to end, and I feel for that, but it's just like the writers just reached a point where they had to accommodate the time frame they were given. I feel like the Duffer Brothers probably did wanted a 3 hour finale, but Netflix is just like, no, let's keep it at two, just like how it's been the last couple of seasons. But I hold out hope that there's still more to come in the current timeline of the universe.
And like I think also I think just piggyback on what you're saying, there comes a certain point that when you're writing a show, you realize, okay, how much material, like I think they start that, I think after the first and second season, when they know the show's going to be hit, they're like, okay, how many seasons can we drag this out? Because we know that we pretty much know the ending, but how many seasons
Mhm.
can we drag this out? And then
Right.
two, if we're going to drag this out, how many years do we have these people for playing these characters? Because like, what was it? In shows like Stranger Things and Game of Thrones and a bunch of other ones where like a lot of people who play, a lot of them are starting out in like their early 20s, like 21, 22, and when the show
Right.
ends, they're pushing into their 30s for some of them, or at least the kids start out when they're, I believe some of them were maybe what, 9, 10, and they're grown adults now. They're in their early 20s or probably mid 20s for some of them.
Yep.
And it's like they can only play being 17 for so long. They can only play
Mhm.
being when I'm talking about Steve Harrington and the rest of them, they can only play being 17, 18 for so long. That 5 o'clock shadow is going to hit somewhere at some point.
Yep. I mean, it was noticeable with Jonathan's, the actor who plays him, his facial hair. It's like kind of hard to keep down to keep that 17-year-old look on him, but that's the only example I can think of right now.
Like the only person I think could have honestly kept going, like age wise, and honestly been okay. I think probably I probably have to say Will and Dustin because they still look to a point. Like if they shaved, both of them look to a point where they could have stayed, like they could have jumped like 18, 19, possibly 20 and still been okay. But like the other two, Lucas and no, not Will, Mike. I'm talking about Mike and Dustin, excuse me. But
Hmm.
Will and Luke, they were pushing it with them because they were, I could see the 5 o'clock shadow and the mustache with them, like they were pushing there. And then 11, I honestly saw it too, like she was getting there too.
Hmm.
So again, it was a certain point like you they can only pull them so far when it comes to age, and de aging only does so much.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's just that, yeah, they could, in terms of like heights and their current, what if you subtract the facial hair and all of that, and of course their developing bodies, it's just like like you said, they can only be 17 for so long, and that's why they sort of had to end it in a way. They could do a time skip story where pretty much the equivalent of the It Part One and Part Two that we have, where we have the version where there were kids doing all this, and there could be a version where we have to deal with the adults. Because on a technicality, the story isn't over, but it's over at least for these guys, and they pretty much set up for the next group of kids that they pretty much pointed at. And however long they have them, who knows? But it's just one of those like we'll wait and see because the Duffer Brothers, again, they do want to keep expanding the lore of this world however long they can.
And like Speaking of the It series, have you watched the newest one? I have not watched it. How is that show?
Well, I haven't watched the show nor the movies. Like, I'm not that invested into the horror stuff, but I do know that um, it is a good. It is good. Like everybody has been loving the Welcome to Derry
Okay.
show a lot. So it's just one of those things where if you have the time, definitely watch it when you can. But I'm not gonna. I have
No
no
stock in it.
active interest. Yeah.
Yeah, because like when they did the Chucky show, I was gonna watch it, but the place where they were like releasing the episodes, I couldn't watch it. I could only watch it if it popped up on YouTube or something like that. And at that
Mm,
point, it was like, okay, like the show's running on, like it's ending its second season. I haven't even been able to watch it, so it's like I either find it on a streaming service or wait for it to come out on DVD. Like that's the only way I can watch it. But
mhm.
it's one of those things that again going back to it, like it's how much material can we pull out and how much material can we use with the actors that we have, because if this is going to be a long standing show, then we got to mindful that these kids are going to grow up, and if we're waiting 2-3 years for we're filming a season, these kids don't stop aging just because we're not filming the show. So
Right. No, it's definitely the same case with a lot of shows. The only people that could genuinely get away with it are animated shows with their child actors because they have, if the story is one of those stories where they feel it needs multiple seasons, and they could just easily do a time skip or at least say that some time has passed to justify the child characters, voices maturing, like, Steven Universe and Adventure Time, like those, like the voices for Steven and Finn, they're grown adults, but like their current their show with now with Fiona and Cake for Finn, his adult voice is now justifiable because they aged him up. And for Steven Universe, their only excuse is that he is by the end of his show he was 16 years old, so his maturing voice was somewhat justified. But with live actors, it's it's really a big risk because their only choices for those actors is, at least the only example right now in my head is Marvel. They a lot of their for the young Avengers, they at least can get away with, people who are actors who are like 17, 18, early 20s. But if they will really want to pan out the stories that they have planned right now, they really just gotta get the ball rolling, which is I'm hoping that Doomsday and Secret Wars can truly take advantage of these actors before they can anymore, like with the OG6.
in all honesty, just it all comes down to where they plan it out, or where they're just winging it at this point. So
Mhm.
hopefully they're not winging it. Hopefully they're planning everything out the way it's supposed to be done, and they'll end up having a good show as a result of it.
Yeah, no, that's always the hope that the story has been thought of far ahead enough to where they could film whatever they can without too much editing. The only disappointing thing, I still haven't watched it, but have always heard of everyone's disappointment. But the last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones was a huge disappointment because they jumped too far ahead into doing what they can. And not saying that it's because their actors were aging, but it's because I guess maybe contracts were just, blowing up, and the author just didn't have enough time to finish the stories, and they didn't want to wait for him. So that's the other thing, is hoping that Netflix doesn't want to end up not waiting for the Duffers to finish writing what they can for their expanded universe with the live actors.
That is true, but I can't defend George R. R. Martin because he's had plenty of time to write, and
Oh yeah,
like
for
he's
sure.
he's had way more than enough time to write and put stuff out, and the fans are like, dude, have you already written this and you're just sitting on it and waiting until we're at a point where we're just gonna revolt and then you're gonna release it? Like it's getting slowly to that point, but I
Hmm.
I digress. But switching gears here. So
Yeah.
the subject matter that we have for today on this particular episode, we're going to be talking about our favorite angry Spartan, Kratos from the God of War series. How were you
Mhm.
introduced to Kratos?
Uh, so I discovered the God of War games before when during the PS2 era still. So definitely at its peak. What I believe God of War 2 was already out by the time I played the first game.
Okay.
And and then when the series ended with 3, and then we got the Ascension, even though it was a prequel after that, we thought that was going to be it for the Spartan until we got the PS4 slash PS5 story with the new quote unquote soft reboot slash sequel. So it was just so that's just been my experience with Spartan. I've been there since essentially the beginning of his life. So
Okay. Okay. I think my first introduction was God of War One. One of my brothers was playing it on the, I believe, the PS2, possibly three. I'm gonna say it was possibly the two, and he was, I remember, was this character got these two chain blades, and he's just like hacking and slashing his way through
Mhm.
like all these enemies, and then just the infamous circle button, just knocking them out, doing these brutal attacks against, and like I remember watching it. I was like, okay, this might be my type of game. And then what
Mhm.
was it? I think it was you have to remind me. It's the one where he ends up freeing Helios. I'm not sure what the name is.
Bring Helios, that one I believe was I want
Chains
to
of
say
Olympus.
Chain. Yeah, I want to say Chains of Olympus is where he freed Helios.
Okay, yeah, that was my very first experience playing the games, and the amount of weapons that Kratos has as it disposed as he goes through each game is it's terrifying because he gets like the fist of Zeus, I think, and he gets the Helios shield, and then other games he gets the, like, I believe the blades of Hades, and then he gets the,
Mhm.
what is it, the weapons from Hercules. Like, he has an assortment of weapons to go fight people with, and it's just it's terrifying that how easily he able to like topple all these guys who have just been around for eons, and he's using all of their weapons against them, and just basically like he's soloed an entire pantheon by himself essentially.
Yep, he sure did. He definitely was the definition of hammer space during the PS2, PS3 era, and then the PS4, PS5 era. He pretty much that Kratos. We can see where he hides all his weapons, but yeah, no, the assortment of weapons he had at his disposal, and but even then, like the game, at least through the players, have proven that you don't even need them. He's just that OP. You can just stick with the Blades and Chaos throughout from start to finish, and still decimate the entire pantheon.
And like one of the things that was just, it was a constant, was when you saw him through each God of War, going from one to all the games in between to even into three, you saw this coldness in him that was just apparent in every single game. Like, you rarely saw a side of him that was just a bit soft and a bit like, just a bit, just I want to say normal, but being saying Kratos was normal is very exaggerating. Like, like those moments where you saw like he wasn't just this brutal calculating fighter that we saw. Like, there were a few moments where we saw him like he was just a very chill person, and one of
Hmm.
those was actually in Chains of Olympus, when he actually got reunited with his daughter again, and you saw that loving dad that she like. You saw when he actually went into Elysian Fields and saw his daughter. Like, he was smiling, he was happy, and
Hmm.
she was just excited to see him. And you saw that guy that was before he made that pact with Hades. Like, this was the Kratos that we rarely ever get to see, and that the moment only happens for like maybe 2 3 minutes, and then he's back to being, the Kratos that we all know and love pretty much. And it's sad, those moments where he does actually get to be happy. It's very very brief.
Right. No, it is very brief, and everything during the Olympus um, point of his pantheon of his life, he it was that he just wanted to see his family again, mainly his daughter, and going back to Chains of Olympus, like despite how old the game is, still will say spoilers that he had to give up. being with her just because the true plot of the story of Olympus is that Persephone wants to get out back into the world above, the world of the living, essentially. But in the process, in doing that, she will be destroying the pantheon in her own way, and that in turn destroying Calliope, or rather, just her soul will be lost forever. And Kratos did not want to be responsible for that, knowing that he still had the power to stop her. He rather his daughter be in peace than to be with her.
I'm curious for during that game, did they ever consider putting the mom along with that, so like he would be reunited with his full family, like not just the daughter but the wife as well. I wonder if they actually did consider that for because it would that would I'm like this I'm not throwing any barbs at Kratos as well, but like that would have
Right.
made the whole thing even more terrible because now he's reunited with his full family. Like he has his wife, he has his daughter. They're in his arms, and he has to push both of them away instead of just the daughter. And like
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, like the daughter was probably the more impactful because like as he says, like this is a slight spoiler for God of War Valhalla. He mentions in God of War Valhalla that he was not a good husband to her,
Mm-hmm.
and that she was a great wife. Like she was like the best wife he could probably ask for other than Faye, but he
Mm-hmm.
chose to not heed her wisdom and her advice, and it ultimately he did what he wanted to essentially, and it
Mm-hmm.
ultimately ended up costing him more than he had ever asked for.
Right. I think that they did want to put her in, but at the time it was a PSP title, so it was probably due to just time constraints and limitations of the console to have a certain amount of character models, PS2, essentially PS2 level character models on such a small hardware. And you're right, who knows um, how much warnings or wisdom he ignored from his wife if he truly valued her, as shown in God of War Ascension. Like he carried her necklace around throughout the entirety of the game, essentially to not forget her and what he has done. So it's just who know, but I would say to truly answer the question, they probably did. They just didn't have enough time, probably.
I can feel that. And then after we go through the Greek pantheon, we move on to the Norse pantheon with God of War, essentially four, and God of War Ragnarok, and he's
Mm-hmm.
essentially now living in the Norse mythos with and he ends up meeting his wife Faye, and according to him and Faye, they both confirmed this when they both met. They essentially tried to fight each other and cut each other's heads off, essentially. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually learned the background of that story, like because we only get a point where Faye and Kratos both say they just fought each other when they met, but apparently Kratos was trying to chop down a tree that Faye
Mm-hmm.
had, like I'm guessing imbued with like protection ward, and she thought he
Yeah.
was invading, and she tried to attack him, and the battle essentially lasted for a good long time. And if anybody know out there knows Kratos, Kratos is he has an incredible amount of endurance when it comes to fighting. So, and
Yep.
from what we were told, this battle lasted for a good few hours before they it ended in a stalemate between the two.
Yep.
But Faye, from what we can understand from what Kratos consistently speaks about in those moments, was that she completely changed his perspective and his life after leaving the Great Pantheon. Like he was still a little bit like stoic and a little bit like grumpy, but it wasn't like an intense like grumpiness and angriness that he had when he was part of the Great Pantheon. Like this was just like I'm getting older. Like just life is just a little just you know everybody has that cranky dad that just like I hate my job, I hate this house is something like they're angry about always about something. Even if there's nothing wrong, they're angry about something. And
Right.
with Kratos, like he's completely changed. Like when you see him throughout the game in God of War 4, you other than when he is fighting, he's a completely different person. The way you hear him talk and interact with people, he's very very different.
Hmm.
He's stoic, he's quiet, he's still calculating, but he does not like jump into every situation, blades out, guns blazing. Like he thinks, he's tactical, and
Right.
he's not as brash as he was when he was fighting the Olympians. Like he actually thinks and coordinates, and he picks and chooses battles the right way.
Hmm. No, that's one thing I definitely enjoyed about his essentially like rebirth, is that he was rebuilt from the ground up, and what it took for him to somewhat calm down was probably whatever words Faye did say to him before they had Atreus, and that he just learned how to be at least a more calm human being to really get back to that somewhat general mentality of like the calm before the storm, and then finally just reaching to the point where he could somewhat enjoy life again. But of course, the events of God of War 4 was when is when we see him like really accept that what he is somewhat, and then Ragnarok is like the final the final push of that he is more than just a monster, and Faye was the not Faye and Atreus are the reasons why he was able to be, just so different and, better even in my opinion. Like that Kratos is to me the highest the high peak Kratos to me is just the Norse mythology Kratos, and who knows what he's going to be like if they still plan on continuing the story after Ragnarok.
I do also enjoy like for the game that they included a son Atreus in
Mm-hmm.
this, because it showed like if they had just played this game like God of War 4 with no Atreus, it would have felt just like another typical God of War game. But you realize that he is now he has to be responsible, because he's not fighting just to fight or just to achieve an ultimate goal. Like he has to one achieve the last wishes of his wife. He has to teach and correct and prepare his son for the things that are out there, because he knows that when he did all this, when he had started off and he beat Ares and everything, that he was primarily doing all this stuff alone. He was basically living each day and days expecting something to happen to try and like take his life. And now he has a chance to prepare his son for that. And one of the things that doesn't get talked about the most is that the reason why he didn't want to tell his son about who he was, and I don't think he was scared to tell his son. I think he valued how his son saw him, and
Mm-hmm.
if he told his son exactly what he was and what he did to him, it would look like his son saw him as a monster, and he would reject him just as everyone else did, because Atreus at that point at the start of God of War 4, Atreus is the last thing that connects him to Faye in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And if he told Atreus everything and Atreus rejects him, it's like Faye walking away from him and he's alone again.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, he wants his son acceptance. He wants the love of his son, because for his son, he's the last person in the world that's gonna love him for him.
Right.
And for his son to reject him because of the things he's done in his past and everything, like it won't sit well with him. And we know that from the times that in the games after 4, that even then he still is slightly uncomfortable talking about his past with his son, because he doesn't want his son to reject him in any way.
Right. I mean, he it it's all I completely agree with that for sure. Like he just didn't want to lose any anything more. Like he never thought he would lose another wife so soon. But the fact that he still had a child, he wanted to protect him at all costs. But unfortunately, because of that small twinge of fear, he chose instead of choosing a new method of like properly building up his son, supporting his decisions right from the get go, in that with the rules of of this new world, or with the thought of, this is a new life, I should probably have a different type of parenting. So he decided to go with the Spartan method of parenting that he was raised, where it's just like, if you're not strong, you won't survive in this world, which is true in that world. But like, he could have been more like, not not as not as harsh as he is, but like it turned out for the better, because how Atreus defends himself alongside Kratos in the first Norse game.
And they make an incredibly like great team when it comes to like them handling combat and everything, because in if you see them fighting alone with whether it's Atreus or Kratos,
Hmm.
they don't seem to do that well by themselves.
Right.
But when they are together, working together, fighting alongside each other, they are such a coordinated and they're a great team together. And you believe that they can take down anyone. And Kratos actually mentions that in the game when Atreus talks to them about the future enemies that they're going to face. He says, like, Dad, I don't know how you can beat these guys. And he's like, well, as long as you're with me, like, I'm not going to worry at all.
Hmm.
And that's the faith and trust he has in his son. Like, if you are with me, we can defeat them. We can beat them.
Right. True. But there's also just like going off of that note in particular, it's just that, yeah, they're great together, but there's also still the question of how powerful Atreus really is, because if we fast forward to the part of their journey where they're in Alfheim and Kratos is quote unquote gone for a really long time, it shows the amount of dark elves that Atreus has fought on his own, and not just with his bow and arrow, but also looked like he used Kratos' weapon as well, which was the Leviathan axe.
That was
Who
actually a really cool
knows?
scene to see. That was a really
It,
cool scene to see. And to see that carnage he committed by himself, like that was really good.
mhm, true. And so it really further establishes that they work well together with their individual strengths, but it also raises the question, just how strong is Atreus really with Kratos's training, or rather what he did on the side with Faye. But right now the focus is on Kratos, but it still raises a good question.
Yeah, and like I thought he would get more than one other weapon because, as far as I know, in the games for both, he only has his bow and his knife. That's all he's getting. But I thought like he would like build up in weaponry when it came to like because Kratos technically, as far as I know, he has three weapons and Atreus only has the two, mainly the one
Hmm.
because you can't use the knife as a primary weapon. You primarily use your bow as the weapon. So I thought they would upgrade him a little bit when it came to weapon wise. But I'm
Hmm.
guessing they didn't think he would have the strength to wield other weapons, so they didn't bother doing it. But it 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 all it all comes down to what they were designing and what they wanted to do.
Hmm. I mean, it just goes back to how Kratos was dressed. Like, Kratos was built even before he discovered he was a demigod back in Greece, and still is. He was built as an instrument of war because he is Spartan. So when it comes to mastery of weaponry, Kratos adapts a lot better than Atreus. Well, versus Atreus, yeah, Kratos trained him, but to my understanding, with each playthrough that I've played, like, Atreus was only built and trained for survival. Kratos never thought that Atreus would go to war, but unfortunately, he had no choice with what unfolded in Ragnarok. So he didn't really have time to train him more than just the bow and arrow, because Kratos knows how to use a sword. He knows how to use a bow and arrow himself, shield, spear, or whoever, who knows how many other weapons in the Spartan arsenal at that time. And Atreus was only able to learn one thing, but that's mainly because of his mom. His mom trained him how to hunt more so than Kratos did.
Can you imagine if they had like done like some DLC stuff with the game and they allowed you to go and find other weapons from the other game. So like you would like let's say when Kratos comes to Midgard, like all of his weapons just fall from the sky and then they're just locked away, and like you
Hmm.
go to out you go throughout Midgard and you go and just try and find his some of his weapons, like possibly going to go find the Blade of Olympus or find Helios's shield or find Hades' weapons. Like, do you imagine how powerful he'd be if he got any of the stuff from Greece, like any of it? Like,
Right. I mean, Valhalla gives us, even though it's just a brief power boost again, like it was in God of War 3 for the PlayStation 3, we get the Blade of Olympus back, but it's really just like, let's see how many enemies we could one hit kill or slash with this weapon versus what it was in God of War 2, where you could unlock it in a new game plus playthrough and use it regularly, and even then it was powerful in its own right. So who knows how powerful in the Valhalla DLC Kratos would have been to use against the enemies in that game, in that part of the game.
and correct me if I'm wrong. I heard a streamer say this. Couldn't you combine the blades of chaos into one and it becomes like the blade of Artemis or something like that?
No, I think the player, whoever said that, was thinking of how you summon the Blade of Artemis in God of War 1, where because Kratos' method is to just like smack his hands together and then he summons a new weapon. So, but that's
Oh,
just my theory.
okay, okay. All right, so we've gotten to the point. So, uh, the primary objective what we're going to try and do today is we're going to try and pinpoint his absolute canon moment. And for those that are probably new listeners, an absolute canon moment is the moment in the character's life that this is something that has to happen in her life in order for them to start on the journey that they're about to go on. So
Mhm.
example of it would be with with Bruce Wayne, his parents dying. With Spider Man, it'd be Uncle Ben dying. So it is a pivotal moment in their life that has to happen. Like even if they wanted to change it, it cannot change because it is a pivotal point that essentially it is a part of their universe just as they are.
Mhm.
So what I'm gonna have you pick two, possibly 3 points that you think. What are the 3 points that you think this would be for Kratos?
Let's see. I think for Kratos would be the loss of his family, but it could, be different mannerisms. Like if it was it because I think the initial thing is in relation to that is a deal that he makes with the gods. Like I feel like if he would have made a deal with any of the gods, they all would have had that same instinct. Like they want him to be the perfect warrior under their command, and his to them his family was holding him back. So I'd say him making a deal is a pivotal moment, and I believe his and the second thing I would give is his death um, in the third game is also a pivotal moment because it raises the question like is he some is he a being that's always meant to reincarnate at, after who knows how many trials and tribulations, and will he be allowed to truly die um, in the Norse pantheon? Because yeah, the Norse pantheon stuff is over, but like, can he truly die? Is he fully immortal, or can he die fully? We don't know. So, but he does have to die in order for something to happen. So I would say his death and him making a deal are two canon points for Kratos in order for the world to continue as it is in terms of stability.
And like I probably put my three would probably be I would have to say his brother being taken because that kind of started things up because his brother was taken by mistake
Mm-hmm.
and Kratos carried that mark from it because
Mm-hmm.
it was mistaken because Kratos was actually the intended target. He was the intended target, but I guess the
Mm-hmm.
mix up just got mixed. I guess everything just got mixed up at that point. And
Right.
I would say my second one would have to be hmm The second one's kind of the number two spot is honestly a tie between the loss of his family and the the deal with Ares,
Mhm.
because they kind of go hand in hand with each other.
Right.
It kind of seems that way. Like it go like if we were talking about Peter Parker, like him getting bit and Uncle Ben dying kind of go hand in hand with each other.
Mhm.
So I'd have to say like them both in synchronization go linked and link with each other.
Right.
To separate the two would honestly, it wouldn't be right because they each play a pivotal factor in each other. He was going to die.
Right.
What did he do? He made a deal, and what that deal cost him, his family, and that ultimately drove
Right.
him to the point where he was supposed to be at. And you see him talk about that
Right.
frequently throughout every game that he goes through. Like this isn't just the Greek pantheon, but in the Norse mythos, he talks about it, and it's a very painful thing for him to be reminded of and to remember consistently.
Right.
So it and then I think for my last one, I would have to say him meeting Faye,
Hmm.
because Faye meeting Faye pretty much changed his entire person. Because if you see him
Right.
from the when he started or ended God of War 1 to what we see in God of War 4, it is a completely
Hmm.
different person. A completely different
He is.
person. And I'm not just talking about the beard, like it is a completely different person.
Hmm.
And
No,
so
he.
go ahead.
No, it's just an agreement that yeah, it really is like he just becomes a completely different person as soon as he meets Faye. So that definitely is a necessary canon point to his character.
So I think we can both agree on this particular one. Uh, is that his top three would have to be the one of them is the when he dies in God of War 3. The
Hmm.
I would say him meeting Faye is number two, and then for the number
Hmm.
one spot, I would say if they're in a link with each other, uh, the the pledge to Ares and the loss of his family. I think that's a
Hmm.
solid number one. I think everyone would probably agree, like that is the number one spot.
Right.
How about you? You have any objections with that?
No, not at all. Like those are definitely a lot of things we associate to his persona as to what he becomes as in the beginning and to what we know today.
Where do you think they'll be going for the future of him with the franchise? I could be wrong, but they could do something with the Norse again. I don't know what else they could do, but if not, where do you see them going next?
No, I think they stated they're done with the Norse stuff, sort sort of at least in terms of how how it ended. You know, like we're seeing because at the end of the day, with the story, like that, of course, this is like the director's, the game director's take on how the mythos of the Norse and Greek pantheon mythologies can go about. But um, but I think they're essentially done. There's stability in the Norse pantheon, and I think they want Atreus to be the new face for the future, and whether or not Kratos will be along for that ride is yet to be seen. But I know for a fact, like with Sly Cooper, the director of the God of War series and the Sly series, they have some strange infatuation with the Egyptian pantheon, or at least the Egyptian um, storyline. So it's just like that's what everybody's hoping for now because that was the original intent, and they wanted to go to Egypt instead of Norse, but I think Egypt probably would have been a little too complicated in the mythos to just throw Kratos in there. So
I do agree
it's just
because
one of those.
because there from what I can understand, there is a lot of gods for Egypt, like that they'd have to incorporate them. Like
Hmm.
with the Norse, they probably had to deal with what, like maybe eight, nine at the most. But with Egypt, there's like just based on like some of the Egyptology that I got to research years ago, and then watching the
Hmm.
Prince of Egypt and everything, like there's more than 50, possibly 100 that they have.
Oh yeah. No, there's so much that they could have done, so that's why they definitely made the right choice in that pantheon. But I think now whoever was researching on the side with the Egyptian pantheon has had enough time. They probably have the necessary gods that Kratos and or Atreus can interact with to justify the either the destruction of the pantheon or a re-envisioning of the pantheon, like under new management, essentially.
I'm mostly curious, like if and when they do the Egyptian pantheon, what is going to translate over from the Greek and the Norse? Like, is he going to keep the axe? Is he going to give it to Atreus? Is like because as far as I know, the game wise ending from Greek pantheon to Norse ending, he has three primary weapons. He has his spear, he has his blades, and he has the axe. Will those translate over? I don't know. I would love to have him keep the blades of chaos, obviously, and the Leviathan axe. So it all depends because it from what I'm saying from each pantheon is what they're going. He's going to get a new primary weapon. Like from the Greek, he had the blades of chaos. In the Norse, he had the axe. So it is something that's going to be relevant to that pantheon. I don't know what that could be. I can honestly see him getting a bow as a new weapon. I could see that
Hmm.
because Egyptians they did use the bow a lot in both their writings and their hieroglyphics. So that is something they could actually do. They could also give him a good sword, or they could have him get another spear. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to what they will show.
Hmm. I think, in my personal opinion, it's not that I want him to leave. Well, I mean, with what I'm about to say, it's I pretty much do want him to leave behind. He asked about out of respect for Faye. Like he only kept it in her memory, but like the way he has, changed in Ragnarok and willing to let go, I could see him like putting down the ass or giving it to Atreus for his journey once he comes back for whatever visit he has with Kratos after who knows how long in his journey, because we don't know how long of a time skip it's going to be if they eventually do make a new story. So, and as for the spear, I would also have him leave it behind out of respect for Brock, for making it for him and what happens to him in the story. So I would see him leaving behind just the two newer weapons, but still keep the Blades of Chaos as a reminder of what he's went through. Like it essentially becomes what he said he didn't want it to be, a family heirloom and a reminder of what you know those blades have done and mean to Kratos.
And now that you actually touched upon with Brock, I remember Brock saying when he blessed the weapon, like when his work is done, that it be laid down. So I could see Kratos leaving that with Sindri, or honestly just giving it to Kratos and like its work is done. Honestly I could see him giving it to Sindri as like a peace offering. Like it was Brock's wish that when the work is done, like it will go back to it be laid down in peace. And like I don't see anybody else I could see him giving it to. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel he would. At the end of Ragnarok, we were essentially have taken Sindri and Brock's home, you know, as our own. But I feel like eventually Kratos makes a new home and just leaves that out of respect for what Sindri and Brock went through in the game. And he probably would leave the ring there to show that he's not that he isn't worthy of it, that it's laid to rest. Like he doesn't need it anymore because he used it for its intended purpose.
and like there was a point that in Valhalla that I thought that Freya and Kratos were an item because when he showed the invitation to Freya, one of the things he says is like he shows the letters like this was nailed to our door. I'm like, our door, as in you guys
Hmm.
are living together, like like this is a thing. But I realized they were talking about Sindri's house, like it was nailed. They both are living there, so it's nailed to their door. So
Hmm. I would take it as they have a thing. Even Mimir pokes at the idea that they're pretty much a thing. So I could see that they probably are. Like Kratos has accepted her as a new wife because I feel one trait that I think has always been a thing for all Spartans, at least from what I've seen from video games, TV, and movies, is that even is is that a Spartan does enjoy the company of a strong woman, and Freya definitely is has already more than proven that she's a strong woman that can handle someone like Kratos if she has to.
I could honestly see if they're going forward with something for Atreus. I could this is a wild like this is just a shot in the dark that if it does happen and Kratos and Freya do have a child, I could see Atreus training and teaching that kid, you know, from that point on and taking him with him on journeys. I could see that happening, but
Right.
that's a stretch in itself. That's a very big stretch in itself.
I think with what Freya has been through, I think she would be okay with marrying Kratos, but I would think she would want another child as, the whole PTSD thing. So yeah, I think Kratos probably is good with the one because I doubt he wanted more than what with his first wife. Who knows? But that's just me.
That is that I get. Yep, I believe that's true as well. But that was we're gonna be wrapping up here, folks. That was a great conversation to had we've had with JoJo, and I think we all agree that Kratos's loss and his pledge to Ares was probably the number one spot that we can all agree with on. And as we have this conversation come to a close, I want to thank JoJo for coming with me today.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
And so, as we close this another chapter in the Hard Cannon podcast, we'll be recording another episode next week. We probably will have another guest, or I might pull JoJo again aside, and we might knock out another topic for then. But until then, folks, you guys have a great time. Great, enjoy your weekend, weekdays, or whenever you're going to be watching this, and we'll catch you next time in the hard space. You guys have a good one.